Marriage counselors, what are the most common mistakes couples make? Wife has degree in marriage and family counseling. One of the bigger factors in a successful marriage are couples responding to repair attempts during arguments conflict. Rescue attempts are often little jokes or olive branches to help overcome issues and arguments. Edit. People keep asking for an example. My wife didn't buy movie tickets in advance for date night this last Sunday and it was sold out. It sucked. She laughed and sheepishly said, "Well, at least we get to spend more time together staring longingly into each other's eyes." That was her rescue attempt. It works two ways though. I also have to respond positively to it, which I did. We did a lot of staring longingly into each other's eyes last Sunday. Edit 2. I thanked my wife for the fake internet points and told her why. Her response: "That's funny because you're not even responsive to rescue attempts. Idiot." I can't stop laughing. Edit 3. I'm a putz and my wife is the counselor. They are called repair attempts, not rescue attempts. Not listening. Most people listen to respond and don't listen to hear. This is what I spend the most time teaching couples how to do. Therapist here. Have served couples. Number one problem I see is overactive threat response creating anger and rigidity. People don't stop to turn down their defense mode and lose sight of love because all their energy is going towards being right or controlling the outcome. Of course that control comes from a place of fear, but fear and vulnerability feels too dangerous. So it typically gets expressed as anger, frustration, or rigidity. Surrender to not having control. Accept what's in front of you and cultivate compassion. Please. Because you're rigid couples who just can't prioritize empathizing with each other over your fear response are driving me nuts. Edit. Just adding a smiley face. And that this is the most common case I see. Not the only. There are lots of folks who won't fit this pattern. I have provided couples counseling at different points in my career. Some of the common mistakes I will often see are: 1. Expecting partners to be able to read their mind and anticipate needs and wants. 2. Goes with the first one. Lack of communication, comfort with discussing difficult topics, or one partner being uncomfortable with discussion a topic which leaves both partners feeling frustrated or dissatisfied. 3. Blaming their partner for all issues in the relationship and not taking ownership of their own role in dysfunction issues. 4. Not expressing gratitude towards your partner on a regular basis. Experiences and expressions of gratitude can have a really positive effect on psychological well-being as well as relational strength. 5. Not giving intimacy in their relationship enough attention. This includes but is not limited to sex. Many relationships start with the hot and heavy phase where intimacy can come naturally. As this phase diminishes, many couples do not spend the time and energy to consider how to maintain a healthy level of intimacy now that it doesn't just come naturally. Edit. I hadn't expected such a big response to my comment and appreciate the sharing and questions people have made. Without knowing and working with a couple, it is difficult and potentially inappropriate for me to try to give direct specific suggestions. I don't want to make a suggestion and then not be available to help you put those ideas into action, as that would be irresponsible on my part. I would encourage you to communicate with your partner and seek out a professional, either individually or as a couple, that can help you more directly make efforts to improve your relationship. Also, please keep in mind that every relationship is a partnership. Very rarely have I seen these type of issues in relationships be all the fault of just one person. For instance, it's not only women that engage in the mind-reading mistake despite the stereotypes that people want to perpetuate. This mistake occurs regardless of gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, etc. These issues are usually dynamic and complicated in nature and are a result of cognitive, emotional, behavioral, interpersonal patterns of each partner interacting with each other. If you feel these issues are all your partner's fault, I would encourage maybe trying out individual counseling to talk about how you feel and learn more about how your cognitive, emotional, behavioral, interpersonal patterns may influence your experience in your relationship. Edit 2. Also, express gratitude, not just in your relationship, but in your life. It can have such a positive impact on how someone experiences their day. It doesn't have to be anything big either. Be grateful that your coffee was good or traffic was lighter than normal, or how your partner gives the best hugs or it's a nice day outside. etc. Find something you are grateful for and take time to appreciate it. Divorce lawyer here. Talk about money. Talk about sex. If you're marrying someone with a RedditJar credit score, you should know how and why they ended up with it, lest you find yourself in their shoes very quickly. A credit score can cost thousands and take years to rebuild. Know if they have any tax liens or liability. Are they paying child support and do they have any kind of garnishment? Who is going to be responsible for managing the finances? How many credit cards does the other person have and what are their balances? I've seen money kill a lot of marriages. Another one a lot of people don't think of is actually talking about sex. Not just having it. Do you enjoy the sex you have? Would you like to have more of it? Less? Would you like to see it change? Do you or the other person have any weird kinks? Just have the talk. Different sexual wavelengths can be difficult to reconcile. 1. Keeping score. A partnership is a team, not a competition. Whether a person keeps score of everything they have done, or everything their partner has done, it is a death knell for the relationship. This is one of the most common causes of resentment in a relationship, and you see it often when people use absolute terms to describe themselves or their partners. That is, I always, she never. Remembering that each person has his/her own needs, abilities, skills, and boundaries is essential to a healthy couple. 2. Expecting that because your significant other knows you better than others and is around you most, that they are aware of all of your thoughts and feelings. Your partner is not psychic, and no matter how often they are around you or how well they know you, they cannot pick up on every nuance to determine how you are feeling and how they should respond. That is called emotional babysitting, and it cascades into a host of problems and unnecessary hurt. I went to 5 sessions with my wife during a tough period. The best things we learned from that is 1. Never lash the other with past misbehaviors when trying to resolve a current issue. We have been married 17 years, so there is limitless crap we can pull out of our history together to highlight past wrongs, and that just derails what could be a quick resolution. 2. When one half says I am not happy about X, do not respond with okay but I am unhappy with Y. Fix X. Get settled. Then bring up Y if you still need to. Not a marriage counselor, but I found this article to be highly informative. Expecting one person to be everything for them. You need friends, co-workers, a support system, and hobbies. Keeping secrets or lies. Failure to communicate effectively. This can be taught. Currently a student in a clinical psychology doctorate program, focusing in marriage and family. If you aren't already familiar with it, I would recommend taking a look at John Gottman's work on romantic relationships. He is one of the best known researchers on this topic. Perhaps his most famous work is The Four Horsemen. In a 30-minute interview, Gottman was able to accurately predict which couples would divorce based on their interactions with each other, particularly when those interactions included 1. Criticism, 2. Contempt, 3. Defensiveness, 4. Stonewalling. Research from the Gottman Institute has expanded on this to provide a pretty comprehensive list of factors that lead to couple conflicts and divorce. Gottman also addresses solutions to these issues, which primarily exist within his form of couples therapy. Take this all with a grain of salt. This is one perspective on relationships, but it tends to be a pretty robust and well-researched one, and it happens to be the one I'm the most familiar with. My personal understanding on the issue is that problems arise from a lack of humility in the challenge of getting out of deeply ingrained pattern cycles of conflict, which generally requires both partners to accept fault and extend grace. Edit. Need to say thanks for silver. I know it's small, but this is the most Reddit famous I've been. I appreciate the love less than 3. Getting married because they wanted a wedding, not because they wanted to be married. As soon as couple stops being on the same team, fighting all the bullet of life together, things fall apart. Get on the same team. Get behind each other's goals. If you're not on the same team, you're just going to wind up annoying the duck out of each other. All that bullet of life is going to be beating you down, and your life partner is just going to be part of it instead of a refuge. Not a marriage counselor, but going to a marriage counselor believing that it's like a judge and he will tell them who's right and who's wrong. Husbands accidentally tripping and finding their wrongs in another woman. Or alternatively wives offering a tight, warm space to a new friend's cold D. When your significant other brings something to your attention that they want, don't react harshly if it's something they've refused to bring up sooner. Getting loud or defensive "why didn't you bring this up sooner" will make them shy away from bringing things up again due to negative reinforcement backlash. This is especially true if they've been victims of any kind of abusive relationships. Source: literally killed my marriage because I was an idiot and didn't respond in an open, non-positive way. I've been married for 10 years and my partner is an MFT. All of the suggestions in this thread are wonderful and accurate. The one thing that I want to add onto them is probably the biggest lesson that my partner and I have discovered over time. People change. You will change. They will change. It is nigh impossible to have the same relationship 2 years in that you did at the start. Don't try to hold on to it. The only way my partner and I have stayed together for as long as we have is because we were able to adapt to each other. That being said, don't try to force a relationship that's inherently dysfunctional. It's not a mark of failure for a relationship to end. Change seems scary, but the truth is you've already changed. Not a therapist, but I read an article once that I found very useful. I can't remember the exact terms, but basically, how you react when your partner reaches out with small probes for connection. It's not necessarily big hobbies or interests, but little things throughout every day that are sort of unconscious reaches for positive feedback from your partner. For example, I see a pretty bird outside and I say OMG, come look at this cool bird. Or hey, check out this song I heard that I really like. If my partner passively or blatantly rejects that, it feels bad. Even if I don't always fully recognize that in the moment. Over time, those micro rejections, as I call them, start to build up, and it's why people start to feel like someone doesn't really care about them. On the flip side, even just a little bit of positive attention and sharing in a moment makes you feel so good. Again, even if you don't realize it, getting up and looking at the bird is saying, this is important to you in this moment, so it's important to me. It's basically like those are the small shared experiences that build up a joint life, and if you start to neglect your partner in those small ways, you can grow distant. I try really hard now to never ignore or reject my partner's small reaches. I often don't care about the Instagram meme he wants to show me or the latest NBA news, but I'll listen or look and laugh because I want him to feel loved and appreciated. Edit. They're called emotional bids, and I found a blog post from an actual professional explaining it. Sexual incompatibility. Misunderstanding sex as a bonding activity. When one or the other believes sex is something one does to another as if it was just a utility. One of the most toxic things I have found in doing marriage counseling is when couples think of themselves as individuals who happen to be together and not as a couple. Not that I'm advocating enmeshment. That's not really marriage. That's having a roommate. Or perhaps less than that even. Marriage is a union of two people. That's what the unity candle and sand and knots are all about. There is a bringing together of two lives that is inseparable. If either member still conceptualizes themselves as a solely autonomous individual whose actions and dispositions impact only themselves, things will go bad eventually. They go bad because it results in a person caring more for themselves than their spouse. This is seen where couples spend money behind each other's backs because it's my money. Why does it matter? When couples keep secrets from each other, which inevitably results in pain. This is seen when couples don't stop to consider their spouse's thoughts, feelings, desires, dreams, abilities, and strengths alongside their weaknesses. The remedy to this is behaving as a unit in small ways and in large. If you're getting something from the fridge, see if your spouse wants something. It even helps in arguments. No longer is it spouse against spouse, but it's the married couple against the issue causing stress to the unit. When one person considers a course of action, their thoughts ought to be about how it impacts the unit. TLDR, and the two shall become one flesh, so they are no longer two but one. Not marriage counselors. Not exactly a marriage counselor, but speaking from experience. 1. Allowing families, friends to get too involved in the relationship. Remember the saying, too many cooks spoil the broth? Yeah, exactly this. 2. Assuming you know exactly what your partner wants at any given point in time. People will not always be in the frame of mind we expect them to be. Sometimes it's best to give them their own space. 3. Not discussing finances deep enough or avoiding it altogether. 4. Discussing really important decisions, making these decisions via text messages. 5. Not opening up to each other for fear of having a conflict. This tends to mount up tensions deep down inside and will normally come up when an argument occurs, thereby adding more fuel to the fire. 6. Adopting a tit-for-tat policy. One should aim to put their 100% commitment into a relationship for the sake of the relationship itself and not because they expect return sooner or later. People don't learn to fight. You have to fight fair in a relationship. People go nuts when they get mad, and some couples never learn to fight in a way that honors the person you are fighting with. It is so important to learn to respect space. Don't assume motives. And take turns in explaining your views. It's a big deal and I work on it quite a bit in counseling. Wife doing her master's in psychology and has a certificate in marriage counseling. The main mistake being the use of the word you, your or any similar words targeting the other partner in an argument. For example, you said you would do the dishes. This puts the person receiving the comment into a defensive mode and they stop listening and get defensive. Thus, communication breaks down. This is really a part of relationships. People change and one of three things happens. 1. You change in the same direction. 2. You change in different directions and find a new arrangement for the relationship and new personalities. 3. You change in different directions and you don't find a new arrangement. We had some friends who got married and we tried so hard to keep them from getting married. He was immature, and she was incredibly immature. She had been engaged 3 times. Each time she was dating the next person within a month of the engagement falling through. In one case it fell through less than a month before the wedding and she was dating the new guy within a week. This is actually the 2 friends that ended up getting married. They constantly fought. I mean, constantly. I've been present when he's taking off his ring and asked if she wanted it back. Last I saw of them they were still fighting constantly, and I'm convinced the only reason they're still married is because they're religious and don't want to be seen in a divorce or don't realize how miserable they are. I don't know if they will ever mature, but knowing each one I know that they will do so in very different directions. This is why people who have not matured should not get married. Probably not communicating or money issues. I'm not a marriage counselor, but my wife posted a very meaningful and controversial article the other day and tagged me in it because I agree with its philosophy. It was titled "Your kids should not be the most important part of your marriage." Of course, many parents were offended and complained bitterly about the article. But we don't make our kids the center of our marriage. We devote a lot of time to them and keep them healthy and educated, of course. But we spend just as much time on each other. If mom and dad are happy, the kids are likely to be happy. On many occasions, my wife will rush to get a few things done for the kids in the morning and ask me, playfully, "Hey, you wanna do me in the bedroom real quick?" And I will fix dinner and get the kids to bed so her and I can have some fun and cuddle while we talk about our day. Kids don't define your marriage. You and your spouse absolutely do. I work with couples and their relationships a lot in my line of work, and do some forms of counseling, though it is not my job or training. But one of the common threads I see running in the midst of relationships, marriages that fall apart, is a kind of selfishness. People that don't quite realize that marriage works best when you are both acting in the other's best interest and seeking their happiness more than your own. It crops up a lot, but not exclusively, in sex intimacy. If your primary concern in sex is you are not going to build any kind of bond or intimate connection, and nor is it going to be much fun for your partner. Marriage is a lot about sacrifice, and the couples I see thriving are the ones who are each willing to make sacrifices for the other and for their family. Couples who get married thinking that the coming decades of marriage are going to be exactly like the dating or the honeymoon phase, when they face major challenges or speed bumps in their life together, have a real hard time dealing with it. But I thought I was supposed to be happy. They confuse love with the chemical high you get early in our relationship. That cannot last. For reasons built into our biology, a successful relationship is built on that feeling. It's built on mutual respect and a mutual decision to make it work each day. Pastor here. There is a book on New Testament ethics called Dirt. greed and 6, which coincidentally are the big 3 issues in marital conflict. By dirt I mean household duties, including children. Greed is money management. And 6 is, well, 6. Each topic requires communication and cooperation. Another note, the purpose of counseling is to alter the way you view your situation. This is true for individuals and for couples. Answers and solutions follow a change in perspective. Not a marriage counselor but attorney who deals with some divorces. Technically I am a counselor at law of sorts. The most common mistake I see is people getting married without any understanding of the legal repercussions. Honestly, I think forcing couples to take an 8-hour family law class before getting married would cut down on the amount of people who get married. Like, it's actually a pretty scary concept and it should be normal to not trust someone with as much power as you give them when you get married. Basically once a week, I get a phone call like, my husband is spending all my money. I need a divorce and my money back. That money is gone and it is almost certain there is nothing you can do about it. It's like people literally have no idea about the concept of marital estate. The best advice I've seen online. The person you divorce is the person you married. Aka expecting people to change who they are. Biggest mistake is waiting too long to get help. Repeat issues coming up again and again will not resolve themselves. Get help before it's helpless. As I'm recently divorced marriage therapist, I cannot stress enough how important acknowledging repair attempts and keeping intimacy alive are as life-sustaining nutrients for your marriage. BTW, my ex is a therapist who changed religions and no longer thought sex was important. Putting the milk back in the refrigerator upside down. So how about a response from an LMFT now that we got all of the not marriage counselors out of the way? Not a counselor but not talking about considering long-term goals. For example, if one wants kids but one doesn't and deciding to move and get married without having some kind of understanding in place. Current marriage, couple and family masters counseling student here. And spoken family rules that you bring into relationship are huge. Obviously you didn't grow up together and depending on how you did you grow up you may have had completely different family of origin, experiences. It can be as simple as your foo separated out laundry by color and your sos just threw everything in together so you have different family rules regarding laundry. To your foo had the rule of family problems stay in the family and your sos family talk to people outside the family about all the problems freely. Everybody has these rules. Talking about them and uncovering them, without judgment, will go a very long way in maintaining and deepening connection. If you don't talk about them it is easy to get into negative interactional patterns that are just rehearsals of how your foo did things and not creating healthy, mutually safe patterns. Also, I recommend that everyone in relationship take an attachment style quiz and compare their attachment style, secure, anxious, or avoidant, because that reveals a lot of unspoken rules as well. Till marriage counselors don't exist. 1. Not actively listening. I'm always shocked by how few people actually know how to listen to and validate their partner. 2. Getting married young. I keep having married clients in their mid-20s with 3 kids who are now realizing that 19 was really young to be married. They say they miss the opportunities they never had to date, have 6 partners besides their spouse, and not have to take care of their kids at such a young age, etc. Also, a lot of my clients got married young for religious reasons and then one of them begins to question their faith, which is difficult for both. 3. Expecting your partner to read your mind. 4. The 4 horsemen as someone else mentioned. 4 horsemen. 5. Alcohol, drugs. 6. Waiting until your relationship is already DOA before coming to therapy and then expecting the therapist to revive it in 1 hour. Having a child thinking it would save their marriage. Treating their pets better than their partners. Not a counselor, bit of advice I received a long time ago from a nurse. I was working a unit as a CNA, and the old, intimidating, and smiling veteran nurse, my favorite, on the unit walks onto the unit from lunch holding hands with her husband, a Terry Pratchett look-alike. My young 20-ish self commented that you don't see that every day. She retrieves her battered clipboard from the desk, leans into me, and says, "You want to know the secret? Kid, I say yes. Because who doesn't want to know that secret? And there's this collective lean in from the entire desk. Docs, nurses, support. Pens stop moving. People don't know how to grow and change together. You will change as you age. So will your partner. The question is, do you know how to grow and change together? And she walks off. The answer: a call light. Wisdom to hold on to. The girl you married doesn't exist anymore. She's grown up, hopefully, and changed. Using blaming language and projecting fears and mistrust. Contempts are when you no longer respect your partner, openly or secretly belittle them. The relationship is basically done for. Not necessarily a mistake, but a sign of relationship death and something to keep in mind. Contempt during fights. John Gottman predicts 90% of divorces by identifying contempt. Bit of an oversimplification. If you are angry or fighting with your so and you get to the point where you think they are worthless or beneath consideration, it's probably over. Anger, frustration, rage are all normal human emotions. Just don't let it get you past that line of contempt. It's not you versus them, it's the both of you against the issue. I have provided couples counseling at different points in my career. Some of the common mistakes I will often see are: 1. Are expecting partners to be able to read their mind and anticipate needs and wants. 2. Goes with the first one. Lack of communication, comfort with discussing difficult topics, or one partner being uncomfortable with discussion, a topic which leaves both partners feeling frustrated or dissatisfied. 3. Are blaming their partner for all issues in the relationship and not taking ownership of their own role in dysfunction issues. 4. Are not expressing gratitude towards your partner on a regular basis. Experiences and expressions of gratitude can have a really positive effect on psychological well-being as well as relational strength. 5. Are not giving intimacy in their relationship enough attention. This includes but is not limited to sex. Many relationships start with the hot and heavy phase where intimacy can come naturally. As this phase diminishes, many couples do not spend the time and energy to consider how to maintain a healthy level of intimacy now that it doesn't just come naturally. I am not a marriage counselor, but one common mistake is playing Fortnite. Love isn't something that just happens, and the puppy love at the start is a farce. Love is conscious everyday choice, and a lot of people get bored and assume they aren't in love anymore. At that point they've made their choice. Marriage counselor in TX. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that couples make is forgetting that they're on the same team, and they fight to win instead of fighting to resolve. Focus on hearing and understanding each other, and engage in disagreements with an eye on coming together, and compromise will follow easily. Also, sex is good, important, and okay to talk about. Couples make the mistake of thinking that sex is one of those things that they should just intuitively understand. But life doesn't work like that. Quick edits to add: if you aren't mindful of the baggage that you bring into a relationship, that baggage will make more decisions for you than you will probably realize. Talk about the skeletons in your closet.